All right, this is episode 0. My name's Rusty. I'm here with Scott. And Scott, why don't you tell us briefly how we got here?
Is that the cue you were talking about?
Absolutely.
Throw it over to me? All right,
we were having a little pre-production meeting.
Yeah. We've never done this before, by the way. This is our first podcast. I had mentioned to Rusty in a text message or a comment. It was a text message, right?
It was a text.
Yeah,
One night, out of the blue, I get a text message from Scott, who I've known for over 30 years.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's the first time we ever texted each other. But I said, let's do a podcast, right? And
no, you were more specific. You said
I said, was it immediate? I said, let's do a podcast about Fantasy Island.
Fantasy Island, which I thought was a really hysterical idea because it's so ridiculous. Like, the premise of us doing a Fantasy Island podcast was so ridiculous. Because it's fucking Fantasy Island.
well, real quick. As when I was younger, I always liked the show. I suffered through the Love Boat because it was on Love Boat was 9 to 10, Fantasy Island 10 to 11, and I don't know how young I was. I don't remember, but I don't know if I could stay up that late or I could just physically stay up that late. And I always waited because I really liked the show. So now I said, as I'm older, the winter's coming, got nothing to do, COVID, lockdowns, and all that. I said, let's do a podcast about something that I remember being good as a child, which probably doesn't hold up.
Well, in my mind, it wasn't good. And the fact that you suggested it, I thought was like irony. I didn't realize you have like this warm spot in your heart for Fantasy Island. Now I feel bad for mocking it. So I immediately put the kibosh on that. Yeah. I said, no. I'm being harsh. I didn't put the kibosh on it. I thought it was really funny, but I think...
No. What you asked me was the new series or the old series?
I don't even remember that. I don't remember asking that. I don't even know that I know that there's a new series.
Don't do revisionist history. Listen, you probably watch it, man.
Shit comes and goes in my mind, you know? Like, sometimes I know something, then I don't know it. It comes and goes. Yeah. I'm at that stage. So anyway, we settled on the Bible. We decided, you know what? A podcast is a good idea. I mean, we are two guys that you would be lucky to know in person because we are so interesting and fascinating, and all of our thoughts really need to be heard by as many people. By the way, you ever do this? You ever have a conversation, like you're out in public, let's say you're with your wife or your friends, and there's people... And you talk a little bit louder because whatever you think you're saying is so fucking interesting that, they need to hear how interesting I am. Do you ever have that?
I have bruises on my leg from punches under the table every time my volume gets to that level. Yes.
So the short of
wait, hold on. I don't think I do it because I feel everybody needs to hear my nonsense.
Oh, I do. I
believe.
I think I am extremely interesting, and I think people really need to hear what I have to say because they will be better people for it.
Wow.
Wow,
you're just throwing your true colors out right away.
Okay. I mean, listen, you got to be you, and So I thought the idea of a podcast was good because we do have many interesting conversations. And this is, the Bible was a conversation that we have never really had because we have never read the Bible. Neither of us has read the Bible.
And wait, when he says we have never read the Bible, I don't want anybody thinking that we generally get together and read books together. Like, we haven't read Huckleberry Finn either, together. In a tent with a flashlight in the middle of the woods. So I don't know. What are you talking about it? So,
in fairness, we have listened extensively to the Doors album together, not in a tent, and not together. Not that there's anything wrong with that. The Bible is something neither of us has ever read.
And something neither of us has ever done either is edited audio for podcasts. So this might all end up being...
We haven't done that. Who knows if this is recording right now. But if it is, as I've mentioned, you are privileged to be listening to this conversation.
Yeah. I don't even know how to respond to that. So this is our first podcast. We bought some microphones. We bought some... it didn't work. So we had to buy some other equipment. Barely worked, and we're here now. And so Rusty had said, "Let's do the Bible." And I was like, "No, man, Fantasy Island, some fantasy stuff." And he went, "Yeah, let's do the Bible." I was like, "Dude, come on, man." No. All right. So anyway, yeah. So greatest story ever told. Never read it. You said you never read it. Any of it? I mean,
I've read like the first section of it. Genesis. Yeah, I've read a little bit of Genesis, not all the way through. So I have not read the Bible at all. Like, I know of the Bible, I know stories from the Bible, but I myself have never read them. I come from Soviet Russia. I guess when I was born a Jew, but it's hard for me to say I'm a Jew because I'm not religious on any level. I don't believe in God. Mm-hmm. There might be some kind of creator, if there is some kind of creator, I don't think it's an all-knowing, all-powerful single entity that looks down on the earth to make sure that we're abiding by the rules set forth by him, her, it, whatever. So I don't believe in that. So I've never read the Bible.
Yeah, so I grew up in Queens, New York, still in Queens, to a family that was not at all religious. I don't think they didn't not believe in God, but I'll tell you this, I went to a Catholic church as a kid. When I was in elementary school, I got to leave early every Wednesday.
You wasn't Presbyterian? I thought you were Presbyterian.
No, it's a funny story. Well, I don't know if it's a funny story. Weird story. I used to go to a Catholic on Wednesdays. Used to leave early from my public school to go to the Catholic school for religious instruction.
Yes, I remember kids getting pulled out.
Yeah, and I think some people had like half days on Wednesdays and got to go home to make room for people like me that came to learn about the Bible or whatever. And on Sundays, I was expected to go to church. I was enrolled in Sunday school, which I went to for years, and I was never really into it. Like even as a kid. And I can tell you, I remember
they'd read you Bible stories, sing like Bible songs.
Yeah, it was like I guess. I guess Sunday school was like Bible study for kids, right?
Right.
So there was church first.
You don't remember like any of the stories at all?
Honestly, I do not.
Were you paying attention?
No,
honestly,
you were
not into it.
I think me and my buddy, same age, lived right near me. Kid growing up. I think we were always thinking about like, what can we do to get out of this and be doing something else? And so, it got to the point where we started like not going to.
How old were you?
Elementary school. First through. I don't know. Man.
So like 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
All the way up to middle school, you did this bullshit.
I'll tell you this. I was in the Sunday school in the church I went to ended up being a Lutheran church.
What do you mean? Like it was Catholic and then
no.
Like,
the place
the money's like in Lutheranism.
I don't know. I remember religious instruction was at a Catholic school, and then the years I remember going to church in Sunday school, that was a Lutheran church.
Okay.
I didn't know if I had to
So maybe your family is Lutheran. This is how much he doesn't know about the Bible. He doesn't know what his own religious denomination is.
Well, I'll tell you this. So all through going through it, I remember telling my father back, when I was young, that I'm not really down with this, blah blah blah. I'm not really feeling this. I don't think I want to go. And he goes, listen, when you're 18, you make your decisions. As your father, I'm going to expose you to what,
because I suffer. My dad made me suffer through this, so I'm going to make you suffer because that's what makes you a man.
I don't know how true that is because I never hear my father talking about him going to church.
Oh.
So I don't know. Right. I don't know what my...
Interesting.
I don't know what my mother's opinion on it was.
Maybe it's possible, maybe he didn't go, and he always lamented that, and he said, when I have kids, I'm going to give that to them, something I didn't have.
And he told me, once you're an adult, you can make your own decision whether you abandon this. But as your father, I want to expose you to this.
Right.
It's weird that you would use the word expose, but...
Well, I've known you since you were 14, and there was no church anymore, so you were hardly an adult.
Okay, I'll tell you this. I was there's two I guess big milestones in the church where you make your communion. You think you do that when you're really young, and then when you're older, you make your confirmation. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I think I was told, make your confirmation, do what you want.
You know what the communion is, right?
It's when you eat the body of Christ or something. Right. Okay. Right. Drink the blood, drink the wine.
Yeah.
And then I never made my confirmation, so I don't know what age that's at. So whatever age confirmation is at, I was out by then.
It's fairly young.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So it was a couple years. So that's my religious background, and like I said, never got into it. Never. If I read, I'm sure I had to read the Bible in Sunday school, right? During church services.
I don't know. I don't know what they do in Sunday school. I'm assuming maybe it's like a dumbed down Bible for like kids.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
like
it must have been
parables, based on the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't know, like if you're physically reading the Bible or like reading stories, like based on the Bible. Like remember those shitty Davy and Goliath like claymation things? Yeah.
Yeah, I never knew that shit was religious. Like when I was watching it.
Oh, I knew that shit right
Maybe
away.
I didn't really watch it too much. Maybe it was so limited pickings on television. You just watched what you had to watch.
I mean, I knew from an early age. So when my family moved here from the Soviet Union,
You just moved, right? You just got in a truck.
well, the Soviet Union was basically expelling Jews. They were
Right.
allowing Jews to like flee in the late 70s. And we were supposed to go to Israel, but long story short, my dad was like, fuck that. We're not going to Israel. We're going to America. We got sponsored by
Neil Diamond.
very famous Jewish American.
He's Jewish.
Neil Diamond? What?
Were you gonna make it? Well, because his name was Diamond, I should have assumed he was in the business.
No, he's... You never saw The Jazz Singer?
I don't think so.
Yeah, great movie. You should check it out.
I was like 5 years old, like in the late 70s. That came out, right?
Anyway, no, early 80s. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
So my family came over here, and we were sponsored by a Jewish organization. I forgot what it was called, like Hadass or something. They were like providing like seed money for like basically what were considered refugees because
Right.
the Soviet Union did not allow us to bring anything with us. We were considered traitors of the state. And we were not allowed to bring money with us. We were only allowed to bring like one suitcase. Anyway, so we got here, and because we were sponsored by this particular Jewish organization, I spent kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and about 2 months of third grade. I went to yeshiva. So yeshiva is Catholic school for like Jews. So the day was broken up like from 8 o'clock until about 12 o'clock. It was all religious study. Then it was lunch. And then from lunch until like 4:30, it was like regular school.
Is that when you had the gefilte fish? Like
The gefilte fish was only taken out on very special occasions.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That was probably
So,
religiously insensitive of me to say. I'm sorry.
yes, well, anti-Semitism
No,
is...
don't go there. Don't go there. Come on. Just making a joke. Damn.
So my experience with religion was really like from a very young age. I was in a religious school, and I always remember getting in trouble in class, like first grade, second grade, because
Drugs?
I wish I was on drugs, because it would have
I meant like selling.
it would have made it bearable. And I used to ask questions. Like they would go through Old Testament stories, like Adam and Eve and like things like that. And I would raise my hand and ask genuine questions because I wasn't even like young enough to be cynical at that point. I was just asking questions because it seemed logical to me.
You were a curious little kid, man.
Yeah, well, they did not like the curiosity. So I was in the rabbi's office constantly in the rabbi's office. And then in third grade, I realized, like 2 months into third grade, I couldn't do it anymore. It was all bullshit. I remember I was on the school bus.
Oh, the all bullshit? Like, I mean, it wasn't for you.
I was on the school bus. I was in first grade. I remember I was sitting on the left side of the school bus. I was sitting by the window, and I was looking out the window. The sky was gray. It was raining a little bit. And
Wait, I'm sorry. How old were you when this was happening?
I was in first grade.
Okay.
It's extremely vivid in my mind because it was that aha moment. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking out the window on the left side by the window. It's drizzling a little. And I remember the thought. It just popped into my head. There is no God. And then in an unsophisticated way, like my brain, without the vocabulary that I have today, put together like why it was bullshit. Mm-hmm. Like none of it made sense to me. The people that were telling me these stories wouldn't answer any of my questions. Like, what were they hiding? And the story it just seemed so fantastical. Mm-hmm. I just remember it's nonsense. Now, did it close me off to religion? And, is my mind close to it? I mean, listen, as I grew older, and as I learned science and physics and things like that, it only reinforced the fact that religion was made up. So I have a certain religious background where I was never religious, but I was also in a religious setting without any biases. I was an open vessel, like wasn't for, wasn't against, just trying to take in information. And I just remember coming to the conclusion that it was, for me, nonsense. So this is my starting point going into reading the Bible. I'm very cynical. I think that I'm going to find a lot of things that are wacky, that are nonsensical. I don't know. I don't know what I expect to come out with other than really good conversation. I think it's just going to be funny to talk about. I'm certainly not going to be converted to Christianity when
that was definitely not the intention here.
Yeah. So, I mean, the bottom line is neither of us are religious. You don't know what religious sect you're in. I'm a 6-year-old cynic staring out, onto a dreary landscape.
Listen. You painted the picture so well that your homework for next week is I want to know what music was playing in the background, like when we shoot the movie.
There was no theme song. It was just a bunch of Jewish girls in the back slipping off their skirts in order to put on the tightest possible jeans. Remember the early 80s, like those jeans? They used to use like fucking hangers on their zippers to like pull up the flat ass jeans. Yeah, so they weren't allowed to wear jeans. Oh, okay. They could only wear skirts,
so they were rebelling
below the knee. And as soon as they were on the school bus, the school bus was madness.
Okay, listen to
it. Madness.
Statute of limitations is probably passed now. You could probably tell stories about that school bus.
So, I look forward to reading the Bible because I've never read it, and I think it's important to a certain degree because we do live in a society where
it's very important. The Bible. I mean, I got. It's the most influential text ever written, right? It's shaped the world as we know it. It shapes your neighbor's thoughts. It shapes the people that hire you. It shapes the people you run into on the subway. So the greatest story ever told. I'd like to read it, and I'd like to let's find out what's going on in that book.
I think that it's interesting to see people say that the Bible is so influential, but yet none of the principles laid out in the Bible really shape any part of our society.
Wait. See. That's part of also why I wanted to get into this, because I want to know, like, I know a lot of people that claim to be religious, and maybe they're spiritual people, and they'll quote the Bible. I can't dispute them with it because I've never read it, and they'll say certain things about God and Jesus and their faith, and then I see their everyday actions and their conversations, and I'm like, yeah, something's not connecting here. Like something like you're telling me that on Sunday isn't matching what you're doing on Tuesday. So maybe they're not wrong. Maybe they're following but maybe there's something in that Bible that says, maybe you should only do this on certain days. I don't know.
There's definitely something to be said for that, but not so much what is the Bible telling them. It's who are they listening to that's interpreting the Bible for them, right? So you go to like one church and you can get one kind of sermon. So I'll give you an example. I flew out to Albuquerque one of the first years I was with my now wife, then girlfriend. Her family's from Albuquerque. And we went to Christmas Eve Mass. And we went to this one particular church her mom doesn't really go to because her church Mass wasn't that night. It wasn't on Christmas Eve for some reason. So we went to this church, and the whole Mass was about the attack on Christianity, like Happy Holidays instead of Merry Christmas, like that whole thing.
Right.
Now, it wasn't so blatant and it wasn't so overt, but it was the subtlety of it. So like it was subtle. It was like subtle hatred. It wasn't like right there in your face, like these secularists are attacking our. It was a lot more subtle. But when you're hearing that kind of message over and over, you don't even realize that you're absorbing it. You know what I mean? Then we went to her church.
Wait. Can I just for a second? When you say these secularists, right. See, I don't think that's the people that are saying Happy Holidays. It's people that are being respectful. I don't know what holiday you celebrate. I know a lot of the major religions have big holidays in December.
Well,
right?
you're just talking sane now.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that.
Right. Well,
so,
right.
Like, I wish you happy holidays, because I don't know what you are.
So
let's say Merry Christmas,
so
you're like, I'm a Jew.
I would go to
I'm a Muslim.
I would go to your church. So what I'm saying is the Bible gets interpreted differently, or stories are picked and chosen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because there's many contradictory stories, from what I understand.
I just said, that could maybe explain why people say certain things on Sunday and do different things on Tuesday. Maybe there is conflict in this book that is,
right.
So influential.
Right.
So, just getting real, I just had a flashback while you were talking about when you mentioned the word sermon. That was the only part of church service I remember liking.
The sermon.
There was a lot of prayers. It was like sit up, sit down, sit up, sit down, all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the hymns.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all had to pretend we were singing. Like it was awful. Like it did, man, bad stuff. The hymns are bad stuff. The organ player, I respected it, but the organ music was awful too. But I remember the pastor, I remember his name, but I won't say it. I'm sure he's back then. But sermons were good, man. I like the stories, the inspirational stories. And I never remember, like you heard a negative sermon, but I'm just, we're talking back in the 80s, I guess, late 70s, early 80s. I always remember the sermons. I don't remember the sermons. I remember liking the sermons because it was a story. It was something I could get into. Like it's something, I could relate to.
It was something that you were told that sort of empowered you. It was kind of like an inspirational speech to make you feel good, to give you hope. Yeah. At the end of it, you got to turn and hug like the people like around you
and all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
It was like a really good acid trip that like you find out like the mysteries of the universe, and then like you're like for the next 2 weeks you're just like like I got it all figured out. Until like the realities of like life start like beating you back down, and then like it's kind of still with you, but like it's on in the background. That's like what that's what church is. Like church uplifts you. It gives you like this great like story, and it tells you like this is what Jesus like experienced. This was like a challenge that he had. But through perseverance and like turning water into wine, he was able to win the crowd over. And then like you're like, all I have to do now is like go out and like turn water into wine and like raise the dead. And I too will feel uplifted. So yeah, it's good. It's good that you had that kind of experience in church. But the point is that the way it was interpreted in your church sounds like it served a good purpose. But church is very much like the Supreme Court, it matters like who's like on the dais, sure. Because it's all interpretation and who's interpreting the word and then passing it on to the people. Because honestly, I don't think most people have read the Bible either.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I don't know if I mentioned it in the trial run or in this run. I'm really curious to see that these people, like I've had people quote the Bible and say this was said in the Bible, this wasn't said in the Bible, and I can't discuss it with them because I don't know. I think I told you, like I feel like I'm the type of person in an argument I will concede when I don't know what I'm talking about, and I really have no. And in this, I guess we should timestamp this. We're in December of 2021. It's what's today's date on this?
The 12th,
December 12th, 2021, and I think Bible-listic values and stuff, they're on display all the time on the news, and people are what's the term, virtue signaling like their beliefs, and I'd like to know where it's all coming from, and not to, I don't want to be this guy so early, but like I want to be able to call bullshit on some people too, man.
Like who?
Like people that go, well, the Bible says this, that, and the other thing, and like you said, I don't think these people read the Bible. They heard 17 people down the telephone line. The game of telephone, like what the Bible said. Like, did it really say that? Like, I want to be able to say, nah, dude, man, I think you heard that wrong. Maybe this is well.
I think also the fact that, like, if you yourself read the Bible, you can contradict them. Not only call them out for not knowing, but sort of maybe present a different part of the Bible to them. So like if they justify a particular action or behavior, well, in John 3:14-59, it says that Jesus... and then you're like, well, yeah, but then later on in Matthew so-and-so, you know what I mean? So I think having a good grasp of the story is important. But for me, again, it comes down to it's something I've never done. I think the conversation's going to be great because, like you said, it's the greatest story ever
I am
told.
making no promises of the quality of the conversation. Zero.
Well, I mean, Scott might have to be gone after a couple of shows.
This might be a solo show real quick.
I mean, it's trending that way. What's the timestamp right now?
Okay, so let's get back to technical, logistics issues and everything. So this podcast, we're going to read the Bible, not to the listeners, right? We're not going to.
I mean, if
that's
you
for church. That's for church.
If you guys want to join us, feel free.
So I know nothing about the Bible. There's many versions of it. I think we've agreed on the St. James version. That
all right. Stop. Whoa.
Okay.
Let's figure it out right now. I'm willing to figure this out on the air. So,
well, yeah.
Here are our options. We can do the King James version.
What did I say, St. James?
I think so. I'm ignoring.
That was a bar on Metropolitan Avenue.
At this point, I'm ignoring every one of your blunders and counting down to when I can figure out this equipment, so I can sort of slowly stop coming over and sort of slowly start recording on my own. So the King James.
Yeah, I hope that job doesn't get in the way.
You son of a bitch. So the King James Bible is the one that's read the most in the United States. Now, I say that with some scorn because people might own the St. James. The King. You son of a bitch. Look at what you're doing.
Yeah.
So most people own the King James Bible in this country that own a Bible.
Okay.
I don't know if they're reading it. Okay. They own it. Okay. It's like one of those things, it's like that old silverware that just gets passed down from like your fucking
those boxes
like,
of crystal in the China closet
like
that
their
never
entire
opened.
like house gets passed down, and then like you gotta buy a house just so you can put like all your shit into.
Are you going to go into a George Carlin skit?
That's the King James Bible. People aren't really reading it, but they have it.
Okay, point made.
I think the Bible that people are reading now is the new revised standard edition, something like that. Okay. NSRV and RSV. It's you know what I'm talking about. I sent you the link. We've been reading it. So
I haven't been reading it yet.
I read the first.
I read the first part of Genesis on the couch 5 minutes before you got here.
That's fine. But we're not talking about it.
Right. It's not required for this episode.
You're okay.
Right.
You're okay. I mean, if this was a Harvard law class, you'd probably be kicked out already, as you will be like pretty soon from this podcast.
Was that Good Will Hunting? Was that Harvard?
No, that was MIT.
Oh.
That was MIT.
How do you like them apples?
So, I don't think it matters which Bible we read. I think, on the one hand, if we're reading the same version of a Bible, that's fine, because we're reading the exact same words. I think it could also be interesting if we're reading separate versions of the Bible to see if there are any discrepancies between the two when we're having conversations.
So is that possible? Like there's different versions that have different...
So if you change a word, it might change the interpretation, right? So I think it might be interesting, like if we're having a conversation about a particular section and you interpreted it one way and I interpreted another, through no fault of our own, but because of the inconsistencies in the versions.
Now I'm raising an army, you're raising an army, and we're going to go to war over this crap.
Well, which gets us to, like, who the fuck wrote the Bible, right? Like, no one wrote the Bible. It's just
someone wrote it.
Well, yes,
didn't come out of the ether, right?
Someone wrote the Bible. We don't know who wrote the Bible. The Bible is a collection of all these different texts from, like, all different time periods thrown together from a shit ton of source material.
Okay.
All right. Enough source material to stop like a team of oxen in its tracks. But for some reason they chose. Wait.
Do oxen travel in teams?
A team of oxen, man. You've never seen like a guy sitting like on a coach, like with a.
It's probably not a team though. Like, why is it every animal has a different name for the group of the animal?
Oh, I see. Right,
like a pride of.
Lions,
right? Okay. Right. A gaggle of
geese.
Right. A raft of otters. Good stuff. We're getting off topic, I guess, right. But yeah. A team of.
I see what's going on.
I'm sorry. How much source?
You feel a little inadequate with my knowledge of the Bible. So what you have to do now is like showcase your knowledge of
otters.
Yes.
Yeah. So how much text printed in what format is enough to stop a team of oxen?
I said a shit ton.
A shit ton.
A shit ton.
It's like a metric ton. Okay, whatever.
So Yeah, so you're reading the King James Version. I'm reading the New Standard, or whatever it's called, the New Revised Standard Version of the Bible.
Wait.
No one wrote it. You understand? Like, it's just like...
That's not... You can't say no one wrote it.
So let's...
The words didn't Did they magically appear? I don't know.
All right, you know what I'm saying. It's like
a conglomeration and an amalgamation and a shit ton of oxen brought these texts
all right,
in.
you know what? Let me rephrase it. No one verifiably reliant wrote any of the Bible. Let's put it that way. I think it's fair to say no one verifiably reliable wrote the Bible. I think that's a very fair statement.
Okay, right, because nobody can say, no, it was
Hans Christian Andersen. We don't know who wrote the...
Could it have been Hans Christian Andersen? His name's Christian, right?
I don't think so, because I think the Bible predates Hans Christian Andersen.
Oh.
Are you thinking of the guy from Die Hard? Is that Hans Christian Andersen?
What, the German guy that got...
Yes. I don't even think he was German. Was he German?
I think he was. He was the...
I don't care what anybody says.
The guy that was in slow motion.
That shit is not a Christmas movie.
Stop.
Just because it was taking place during Christmas.
It was absolutely a Christmas movie.
I think...
It was about fighting for what you believe in, fighting against the forces of evil, fighting... No?
No, man. It was a heist.
Yo.
And the guy was crawling through vents, shooting people, and, like, snapping necks with his thighs.
Because they weren't in the Christmas spirit. They were totally Scrooge in that event, right? No? Great Grinching, not Scrooge. Well, both. Grinching and Scrooge.
Grinch and Scrooge, yeah.
How about that dude? You know the douche I'm talking about. That was like, hey, Hans, baby. Yeah, I know why I'm digging where you're coming from. And they just shot his ass. Anyway, come on. Back to
that was the guy in every 80s like movie where people are in a office, conducting business. There was always that guy, like the slick guy, all coked up, like off in the corner, like coked up. Every 80s movie.
Not the 80s.
So
getting back to the versions of the Bible, what I'm concerned about is I don't want somebody to run up to me and like sprout some Bible stuff, and I go, no, because the Bible says this, and they go, oh, that's that new shit you're listening to.
I don't think you're gonna have to worry about that.
You don't think they're like, yo, old school, yo.
Well, what if they've read one version and you read another version? Why is their version right?
I don't know. It sounds like how wars get started. Like, I don't want to...
Okay, what if you read one version? Well, the war's gonna get... Wait, you want to read the same version they're reading?
Well, I'm sure they're not reading any version, but I just
exactly.
Want to... Okay, all right. So here now, let's decide...
I think you're overthinking.
Okay, let's decide what version we're going to read.
Okay.
And do you think it's beneficial that we read separate versions? I got to be honest with you. Part of my reluctance to reading the Bible was the way it's written. I was thinking maybe I would have some difficulty, like it's kind of written like Shakespeare. People don't like Shakespeare because of the way it's written. I don't want that version. Is there a version that's not written like that shit?
I wanted to stop for a second.
Okay. Like, stop the recording?
No. I want to unpack what you just said. I think, not verbatim, but close. You said, I don't want to read shit like Shakespeare because people don't like reading that shit. Shakespeare. You
awful.
Just said that.
Awful, that crap. No, I mean, listen, they'll go see the Romeo and Juliet movie from the 90s.
I understand what you're saying.
We'll go see some some versions of it on Broadway that are modernized, but reading it is difficult.
Yes,
it's difficult. Listen, it's difficult for me. I'm not speaking for all you intellectuals out there. For me, it's difficult to read. So, is there a version where there's not a whole bunch of thou beeths, like a bunch of ths and at the end of the words? And
so,
even if it is, I'm sure I'll figure it out.
So here's another thing. I don't think you're any less an intellectual. I think you're less of a scholar. I think you're highly intellectual. I just don't think you have the scholarship
or the patience.
So again, I think the New Revised Standard Version modernizes some of the words. Like in the King James Version, when God is creating the world, they use firmament to describe
the earth.
Not the earth. I think the firmament is like the heavens, like space. I think that's the firmament.
So they use the word firm to describe something solid, but it's describing space and heaven. I would think firm would be the earth.
No, the firmament is...
I'm already confused. I don't want that version. Is there a version that doesn't talk like that?
So the New Revised Version, I think, uses a different word, but it doesn't matter because there's footnotes. and the footnotes like explain like different parts.
Wait, there's footnotes in the actual Bible?
No, but like if you're reading like an app, which I'm assuming you're going to be doing, are you physically reading the book?
Listen, I was thinking about that. Like, do I get a Bible? And I'm thinking I'm going to want to take some notes. Is it sacrilegious to actually deface a Bible by putting notes in the Bible itself? Or should I put it with post-it notes and stuff like that? I don't want to offend. Listen, I'm not.
Not if you're an atheist.
Nah, but I don't need somebody coming over looking to kick my ass because I what do you call it? I desecrated their holy text. Like,
who's looking to kick your ass? Who's gonna? First of all, who's gonna be? What are you, Andy Dufresne? Who's looking in your Bible?
They didn't find that rock hammer in his Bible either.
Exactly. So I wouldn't worry about it. If Andy Dufresne can get away with it, I think you can scribble a little bit.
Dude, let's say 50 years from now, I decide to be president of the universe, and all of a sudden someone reveals, look what he did to the Bible. Like, I don't want that. Like, it's like would people be offended by that? Should I just get post-it notes?
I think people will be more offended by you dismissing Shakespeare as like some shitty author. I think that it will prevent you from being like ruler of the universe.
Yo, is he the only one that wrote like that? Because like everybody describes the way Shakespeare wrote, but like maybe not many authors have.
So I'm sure that people. He's the only one that wrote
anything
like
good?
that prolifically.
Okay.
And with that much creativity. But I completely hear what you're saying. Like, I don't like reading Shakespeare either. It's a chore. It doesn't come naturally. Like, I'm sure if you can get through, like, one or two Shakespeare plays, like, the rest will come naturally, you know?
Well, what you mean reading the plays?
He's kind of like, you know what he's like? He's like an Old English Yoda. You know what I mean?
Talking
like,
backwards, right?
Like, yes, like, and using, like, really heavy vocabulary.
Right.
And, like, putting together like his little verses into like these melodic, sing-songy kind of like phrases. But you would be shocked. You would be shocked. Like if you looked up how many like phrases of his are in our nomenclature.
Sure.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, yeah, you don't even know like all the things that you say that are Shakespeare.
Oh, nice. Good.
Yeah, it's a lot. So
you think he's up there? He's up there in like your heaven that you believe in, going, yeah, that was me.
Your heaven that you believe in? Is that what you said? Your heaven that you believe in?
Every time I say, 7 years ago, he's like, that was me.
Here's another thing. Let's say you believe in God, like your faith.
Wait, did we discuss that?
We had a conversation.
Okay.
I think it's fair to say neither of us believes in the existence of a supreme being.
Correct. But not arrogant.
Okay. So, I forgot what I was saying.
We recorded it. We can rewind it.
Yeah, let's...
Is that proper? Like in like a...
Nah, we can wait until you're off the show and then...
All right, you can go back and say... All right, so now I'm looking at the ad.
Someone who believes in God has true faith. I never understood why they're sad at someone's death, because you have true faith. The amount of time that you spend on earth is minuscule compared to eternity. The eternity...
Is that what the Bible says? Like when you die, your eternal soul?
So that's a good question.
Wait, no spoilers, man. Like, are you jumping like way ahead in the book?
I don't know what it says. Okay. So that's a good question. Like, is the concept of heaven, is that actually laid out in the Bible? And is the concept of hell laid out in the Bible? I don't know. I think it is. It must be.
I hope so. That's some good story.
Right. So I don't know.
All right. Well, just touching on that, and I guess we'll get to it when we get to that chapter. I think being sad is more of it's like a selfish part. Like, I'm going to miss the interaction with this person, relationship I had with this person. You know, I'm glad they're going to a better place if that's the thing, and for all eternity, and that's great.
But you're going to see them again for eternity, forever. You can't stay away for like a few weeks, a few months.
So all right. So getting back to the verses of the Bible, you had me download an app. I don't want to plug anybody's material, but it's the new what do you call it? The New Revised Standard Version.
NRSV for those in the know.
It says right there on the top of the app, NRSV. All right, so that's what I'm going to go with.
All right.
I don't know how comfortable I'm going to be reading it on my phone. Mm-hmm. You had given me a Kindle, mm-hmm. which is much easier on the eyes. Those paperwhite. I could probably get something for that too, right?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, we're gonna have I'm assuming 5 million listeners for the first episode. So yeah.
Listen,
Kindle will definitely be stocking our coffers.
All right, so I'm just gonna say. So I pulled up this app right here, and it says 6 days of creation and the Sabbath. Somehow I don't think that title was like in the actual Bible, because as I and this is what I read before you came over today. Then it says another account of the creation.
I don't know if you're on the right Bible. So you can choose Bibles. There's more than one Bible that you can choose
NRSV. This is the same app you're using?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Show me. Like it feels like this should be a drop down, but this doesn't actually drop down.
I mean,
basically like another account of the creation. Now, are these?
We're recording right now, so I don't think like.
So are all these in the Bible, and they just put their own headers in there, like to break up the material?
No.
All right. So why don't you take a look at my phone and figure out if I'm.
What are you going to ramble on about?
And I'm going to a word from our sponsor. I'm going to break into a commercial. Sponsors. We don't have friends. What the hell are you doing? Let alone listeners.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not
going to do that right now.
All right, so yeah, all right, we're going to figure out the version of the Bible. I think we should read the same one.
You think so?
I think only because
Why?
Because I'm simple and I don't really know the material, and like I don't want to like be discussing into the material and you go, that's not what I read. I mean, that puts a whole new freaking spin on it. Like,
that's fine. I'm not wed to anything, and the Bible is massive. If we want to veer off later on, after the first couple of 100 books, whatever. By the way, do you know how the Bible is put together? Like how it's constructed?
Here's what I know about the Bible. It starts with Genesis, because the beginning, right? In the beginning, there was, I guess, nothing. But I know there was Old Testament and New Testament.
Whoa, what do you mean there was nothing?
Well,
who's God? God's nothing?
Whoa. No offense to anybody. I know there was Genesis, there's the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the one where all shit goes crazy, like the end of the world kind of shit. What is that? If you say it, I'll know. Revelations? So, all right, so I know Genesis, Revelations, I don't know them, I know of them, and New Testament and Old Testament. That's my...
Right.
Hey, wait. The book according to Luke or some shit? Matthew and...
The Old Testament...
Peter, Paul, and Mary?
Is parts of the Jewish Bible, the Torah. Not the whole Torah. It's just like sections of the Torah.
Now, the Old Testament is accepted by Christianity as being...
Well, Jesus is Jewish, right?
Oh, was it? Wait. The Old Testament, as I understand it, was before Jesus was born.
Correct.
Or created or gifted upon the earth or whatever it is.
He was born.
Okay, so...
He was born to a virgin.
So all that Old Testament stuff... Wow. Yeah. So all this Old Testament stuff is before that day.
Yes.
So
Jesus brought the New Testament is based on 4 books. Matthew, Luke, Joe, Mike.
And those were the horsemen of the apocalypse?
No, the horsemen of the apocalypse
there were 4
are later on. Yes, that's one of Metallica's best songs. By the way, highly recommend. By the way, Metallica, shout out if you want to sponsor us. 4 Horsemen. One of the best Metallica songs ever. Go listen to it if you haven't already. So it's the Old Testament and the New Testament are the 2 parts of the Bible. The New Testament has 4 books. The Gospels. Okay. The Gospel of this guy, the Gospel of that guy, the Gospel of that guy, and the Gospel of that guy. The Gospels are the recountings of Jesus' life. This is what I think I know. Okay? I haven't read any of them.
Where's the 4 books and then Revelations at the end?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if Revelations is a separate book or if Revelations is a section in one of the Gospels. Okay? So I don't know.
Okay.
Was this ever a South Park episode? Did they ever do like the way they did with Mormonism? Have they ever done a story on Christianity?
They had to, right? Yeah, I mean, didn't they do a parody on Islam too? And they got into some trouble. And
yeah, they got into all that. So that's the Bible. The Bible is basically a collection of sections of the Torah, along with the Gospels of the life of Jesus Christ, because Jesus Christ is the Messiah. The Jews were waiting for the Messiah to show them the way. You know what I mean? And the people that began to follow Christ after his death, Christians. They were still Jews, so it was another sect of Judaism.
So everybody was a Jew before Christ showed up, and he splintered the faction?
Well, not everybody. Everybody wasn't a Jew. Jews were always the minority.
Oh, right.
So Jews were always a minority. So he was born to a Jewish mother. He himself was Jewish. All of his friends were Jewish. You know, he was Jewish. That's why...
they all used to hang out on the roof with a fiddle.
That's why Passover and Easter come at very much the same time of the year, because during Passover he traveled to Jerusalem and then entered the temple at Passover, which was like a holy holiday. Passover is like part of Exodus, you know, the Jews like flee. That was like the final straw for why the Pharaoh let the Jews like flee, because
and if you
God,
your
like
door,
with the,
you were okay
with the plague, right? And the firstborn Pharaoh's son. That's another good Metallica song, by the way, Creeping Death. Okay. So anyway, so
They like that Bible, huh? Like,
Shit, I lost my train of
No,
thought.
that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming this is stuff we're going to get into depth because these are in the Bible, right?
Yes. So Jesus was Jewish, and he came to the temple during Passover, he knocked over all of like the money tables and this and that, and that's what led to his crucifixion. That's why Passover is so close to Easter, because over Passover week he came to Jerusalem.
Wait. Knocked over the tables like that Real Housewife that flipped the table during.
Yes, except they were doing like business, like in the temple. So like all these like.
Who does business in a temple?
So that's what Jesus said. And that's why you believe that, because Jesus believed that. Jesus was the guy that showed up. He knocked over like all
maybe
shit.
I'm more down with Jesus than I even realized in
And-
episode 0 here.
And the higher-ups, Jewish like hierarchy,
The pit boss.
they went to the Romans, who were in charge of that province, as they were most of like the civilized world at that time.
This sounds very similar to the story of Las Vegas' creation.
And so the Romans wound up like crucifying Christ, and that was the reason.
Over some poker winnings?
I mean, pretty much like he started fucking with the money, son.
Yeah, you don't do
you
that.
can't
You
fuck
don't- you
with
don't
the
do that.
money.
You don't do that. Unless you're the son of God, then you
You
do
know,
that
like
stuff.
the Romans were like, fuck it, you know, he's like preaching all this like I'm the son of God nonsense, I'm getting baptized, this. Like they were like, let him have that. But as soon as he started fucking with the cash flow, can't have
So
that.
is this from the Bible? Was it some dude you know heard that story and like passed it on? That's in the Bible, like the story?
I haven't read the Bible,
You're right. We keep forgetting. Okay, great.
but that's in the Bible.
Great.
I didn't read that part, but I know that's in the Bible.
All right. So going forward, so what's our game plan here? We're going to read a section of the Bible and discuss it. So like, how much of the Bible do we bite off? And we're going to do that on our own time. We're not going to, like I said, we're not going to read the Bible on air.
I think we'll read sections of the Bible. I think we'll discuss like during the week. Like I'll do a little research, like how long a particular section is.
Rusty is the research arm of this endeavor.
We'll narrow down which sections we're going to read, and that's what we'll record and have a conversation about. Well, we won't record us reading the Bible.
Right.
We'll have a conversation about the section.
I got to tell you, I'm a little excited. Like I said, 5 minutes before you got here, I said, let me pull up the app, and I started reading Genesis, and it was good stuff. That dude did a lot in like one page in 6 days.
It
Dude did a lot.
was amazing, and I think in our first episode, we're definitely going to have to discuss: was it 6 days, or as they say now, in order to catch up with the science, well, you don't really understand what 6 days was. I want you to try and think about the author's intent. Like, is the author only providing a parable for you?
That's a four-sided object with a slanted sides.
That's not a parable. No, a parable is a story, bro.
Oh, right, parallelogram.
So is the story written in literal terms, or is it metaphorical? So when he says God created, or when they say God created, I'm trying to get away from like using gender pronouns when I don't know who the person is. So
really, that's what you feel you need to get away from, not the.
I'm virtue signaling. You had a problem with it.
All right,
but I think that's important because think about it in the Bible, right? He, capital H, him, capital H,
that's fine. Listen,
and it's like, yo, come on. Why would a creator be male? Why would it be a him? If there's a creator, why is it a male?
When we all know it's Alanis Morissette.
Well, Kevin Smith knew what he was doing.
Yeah. All right. So
I think during the week we're going to have a conversation about how much we're going to read. Mm-hmm. We're going to get together. We're going to record another show, and everyone is going to enjoy it, or else.
Or else we're coming for you. So I guess we're gonna be once we air, we'll be at libelthebible.com. We're still working out some technical difficulties, meaning like we haven't actually done anything about it yet. And so, what do you think about frequency of like episodes? Are we talking about a weekly show like here, or we're just gonna?
I think that we're gonna play it by ear in the beginning. I think it's obviously time availability, your availability, my availability.
Yeah, you got a pretty busy school.
If, well, you know, being married and having a son, you know, that kind of does play a role into it. I can't be single all the time, being invited to parties.
Go to work.
Functions.
Anyway, let's move on from this.
So I think that I wouldn't be opposed to, if time allows, 2 times a week. If time allows, every other week. I think we're going to play it by ear, the schedule.
Okay, we were also talking about the length of each episode. You probably play that. So I felt like we should have a 45 to an hour 15.
I think it should be organic. I think we're coming up to
Right.
about an hour right now, and I think it feels good, and I think like I'm ready to cut it off. I think, I think we're pretty much at the end of our discussion.
Had about enough.
I think the next episode is going to be us discussing Genesis.
Man.
That's right. And the whole like everything, like the fucking creation. And you know what I love about it? You don't have to think too much about it. Like these fucking scientists, they're like studying like amoebas and like merging together and amino acids and like all this nonsense and trying to like, figure out like how life got here when it's all so simple. God saw
Okay, so you see
that it was
like,
good. He saw that it was good. God said, an all-powerful, all-knowing being who knows everything that will be, has been.
Spoiler alert, I haven't read all of it.
He made something, and then he saw it was good. He should have motherfucking known already that it was going to be good.
Chill. This is a conversation after I read it all. Like you're telling me how episode 1 ends.
I'm just giving you the trailer for Genesis.
Nice. All right, cool. So yeah, hope you'll join us next week, and hope. Wait, if it's next week, we don't. All right, so no, maybe. I'm not concerned so much with the recording schedule. What are we talking about as far as the release schedule?
I don't think we discussed that on the air. I think we cut it off now.
Okay, all right.
Peace.
Peace.